Hey everybody, my name is Quinn the GM. Welcome back to the channel. Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel was initially supposed to come out today. I thought that it had been delayed until July, which is correct, but Wizards had a nice surprise today. That is that they released the first chapter of the book for free on D&D Beyond today. I'll link it in the description. Be sure to check it out. Get your own copy. But today I'm going to be going through my thoughts on it, breaking down exactly what it is, what makes it interesting, why I like it. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you enjoy this. I think in my most recent video, 99.5% of my viewers weren't subscribed. So any way to bump that up would be much appreciated. But yeah, so let's dive into both what this contains and my thoughts on it. To start things off, what is Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel? Or what are Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel? It's difficult when a word at the beginning of the title is plural, even if it's a singular book. Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel is the newest adventure book for D&D 5th edition. It's going to come out in July. I believe July 17th, but I could be wrong on that exact date. I would check. Don't take my word for it. It's a kind of anthology book, almost like Candlekeep Mysteries, with a bunch of different adventures for characters of different levels. I believe this covers levels 1 through 14. And this is an entirely new setting, and it links to entirely new settings, which I really like. 5e so far has relied a lot upon older settings, which is good, and I've really enjoyed it. But I'm excited to see all the new creative juices flowing here, and I think that's already readily apparent in what we have in this first chapter. The first chapter specifically details the titular Radiant Citadel. It is a central location and kind of hub for these ventures, very similar to Candlekeep was in Candlekeep Mysteries. However, I tend to like the flavor and description here a lot more than I like Candlekeep, and I'm going to get into why right now. I like the Radiant Citadel a fair bit more, mostly because I think it's just generally more creative and has a lot more in-depth lore regarding it, and I think that lore in itself has a lot more potential than what's provided for Candlekeep Mysteries. I'm going to read the opening paragraphs here of this first chapter, and I give you some background information on the Radiant Citadel itself. The Radiant Citadel, a gathering place of strangers and stories. Against the unending mists and unseen terrors of the ethereal plane, the Radiant Citadel stands bright as a bastion of hope. It's a living relic of the ingenuity and collaboration of 27 great civilizations. Abandoned and lost for ages, the Citadel was resurrected from its slumber and reclaimed by descendants of those societies, though some peoples remain missing. The city serves as a nexus of diplomacy and trade, as a repository of history and secrets, a thriving sanctuary for those seeking safety or a better life. The Radiant Citadel is a miracle of architecture, a floating city carved out of a single massive fossil that snakes around the colossal gemstone shard known as the Auroral Diamond. The luminescence of the Auroral Diamond is mirrored in the constellation of 15 structure-sized gemstones, the Concord Jewels, which orbit the city and provide transportation to the far-flung homes of the Citadel's founding civilizations. In the haze of the ethereal plane, the Auroral Diamond is a scintillating beacon visible from leagues away. The diamond itself seems to have moods, changing colors unpredictably, but is always visible for wanderers lost and in need. Just beyond the city whirls a massive, ever-threatening ethereal cyclone known as the Keening Gloom, a looming threat that's a grim reminder of the Citadel's precarious position. Heroes and paupers meet equal footing on the Radiant Citadel. By common agreement, power and resources are equitably shared. Dignity is afforded to all, and the great need is met with great aid. The next section is a list of noteworthy sites within the Radiant Citadel. First off, it provides a really nice map. It's quite detailed. I like it a lot. I also really appreciate that there's both a DM version and a player version. Particularly the DM version is labeled, as I find that tends to be good to have in terms of just a prop to give to the players, regardless of if you need to have a labeled version as a Dungeon Master. Starting off in the center there, as you can see, is the Auroral Diamond. It is a massive gemstone of unfathomable power that pierces the entire city itself, which I love as a design element. I think it looks really cool. There's also the Court of Whispers, which is a place where people barter for knowledge. It's sort of an underground market for just secrets and information generally. All courts of power there tend to have a foothold in order to just gain information in the upper hand on their constituents. But I think it's quite interesting. I like the idea of having that as a way for both just world building and the party to potentially get information if they need it. It's nice that they have that resource available to them. The House of Convalescence is next. This is a really cool area. This might be my favorite area. It focuses the life-giving energies of the Auroral Diamond, allowing for incredible feats of healing magic. It has two direct kind of components to it, those being that when you cast a resurrection spell, being Raise Dead, Resurrection, Revivify, or True Resurrection, within the House of Convalescence, the diamond material component is never required. That is huge. That'll save you a ton of gold. The only thing you really need to revive somebody in that case is just a cleric or druid of the appropriate level to be able to cast it. Furthermore, there is a property regarding healing spells. When creatures would normally roll 1 or more dice to restore hit points with a spell, they instead use the highest number possible for each die. For example, instead of rolling 2d6 hit points to restore a creature, the spellcaster restores 12. Next up is the Keening Gloom, which is the ethereal cyclone mentioned before. There aren't really a ton of details on that, but I do like that that's vague and can kind of be up to DM interpretation. Palace of Exile is kind of a bastion for the shield bearers, who are the main guards of the city. In addition to being founded by a mythological figure known as Skoro the Exile, who was founding leader. He was a refugee of war in the land of San Sitlan, I believe is how you pronounce it. He was selected a good area and essentially created this palace there. There's also the Preserve of the Ancestors, which is a sprawling, domed wilderness within the heart of the Auroral Diamond itself, which is quite cool. It houses both species native to this chunk of rock in the ethereal plane and just animals that druids bring there to heal frequently, which is quite cool and good to have the party be able to bring creatures back there from their adventures, should they be injured and in need of healing. Furthermore, they have the Trade Discal, which is the last area listed here. That is a massive marketplace designed so that the founding civilizations could trade on equitable terms. I think it's quite cool that is separate from the Court of Whispers, and I think that both are quite useful and would be fun to run in the game. The Concord Jewels take up 2 sections here. There are 15 of them, 1 for each civilization and 1 for each adventure, coincidentally, as I believe there are 15 adventures in this book, and that makes sense that these things would correspond. The jewels have one main purpose, and that is to teleport people and themselves to and from a point that they are anchored on in the material plane. That's what allows the kind of teleportation there from this central hub city to the various adventures within the Radiant Citadel. Book, generally, not within the Radiant Citadel, the place. Overall, each jewel has its own kind of gemstone associated with it, be it like turquoise, serpentine, jasper, amber, obsidian, others, and you can also control it via arcana checks. You can land it, you can cause it to fly away from the city, fly towards, and best of all, you can plane shift it, which is most important there. Those are held by clavigers, I believe they're called. They oversee the Concord Jewels. Each speaker for the ancestors, which is we'll get to in a second, chooses the clavigers for via jewel linked to that speaker's civilization. A dozen are assigned to each Concord Jewel, and at least 2 keep watch from each jewel as it orbits the Radiant Citadel. I think it's great to have all this background information ahead of time, and I think it's great to allow players to see that the world does have these inner workings to it, rather than just saying, oh, you teleport to your adventure, you're fine. They then got a few sections about life in the Citadel, the arts and culture, diplomacy, and governance and politics. It is noted as a city of immigrants. Several of the explorers who reclaimed the Citadel were refugees who escaped hardships that plagued their land. They chose the Citadel as their home, despite the strangeness and surreal surroundings of the deep ethereal. Overall, I really like that, and I think that lends well to a D&D game generally, as I think that they tend towards having a lot of calamitous events, and I feel like many adventurers can identify with the kind of just being adrift and needing a place to call home, and I think that allowing this to be that massive melting pot is great, and I really like the artistic design behind the city as well. They then got a section on the groups of the Citadel, 3 of them specifically being the Incarnates, the Speakers for the Ancestors, and the Shield Bearers. The Incarnates are essentially the gems, the, what are they called? The Concord Jewels, pardon me, given personality, as they can form and be able to give people counsel, essentially, if they request it or if they offer enough. The more powerful ones become bigger forms, and each of them are associated with either a type of flora or fauna, and they are able to be sentient and just speak to who they choose to. Each of them has a unique amalgamated personality that has something to do with the gemstone itself. And they all have different kind of fonts of knowledge that each of them might possess. And I really like that they have this much to say for each of these adventures and the whatever plot hooks they may hold. It's nice to have these incarnates in order to eventually be quest givers or just talk to the party and give them information about a place before they go there. Speakers of the Ancestors are next. These are just kind of the people in power, the nobles, if you will, of the city. However, they focus on maintaining internal stability of the city and make sure that people are treated equally and fairly under the law. They are able to deactivate Concord Jewels and just overall have control over who is moving each of the Concord Jewels, or at least their own domain. There tends to be one for each jewel itself, as many things tend to be in the city. There's also a famous one, Shola, I believe is her name. I could be mispronouncing that. She's an ancient brass dragon who's quite legendary and was around for a very long time, and they have a whole section on her personality traits, ideals, flaws, bonds, the typical 5e things, which I like a lot. It's good to have NPCs established. And they also have shield bearers, which are essentially the rescue and relocation specialists there. They're essentially a city guard that focus on other things. They've also got another step book there, for one for a person named Ariat, who I like quite a lot. They also have a section on the Citadel defenses, entering it, the legends and lore. And finally, they have a section of Citadel Adventures. Particularly, these are disconnected from the adventures that you'll find in this book, but rather adventures that could just happen between adventures within the Radiant Citadel itself. Reading through those, to D4 table, on a 1, a revolutionary from San Sitlan tries to hire the party in the Court of Whispers to uncover the plot of a corrupt council member in their homeland. See the adventure Fiend of the Hollow Mine. Oh, so these can tie in to some of the adventures in the other sections. 2 is a committee that oversees the trade discal, asks the party to negotiate with Atash, the angelic ruler of Ankren Sanger, for increased trade in the Radiant Citadel. See the adventure Shadow of the Sun. The Darn Incarnate, Atagua, declares it willing to reveal the location of one of the missing civilizations if the characters prevent an alien evil from encroaching on Atagua, which is Orchids of Invisible Mountain, which is quite cool. I love that name, Orchids of the Invisible Mountain. It's very poetic. And then last one, the Keen Gloom edges towards the Radiant Citadel. Speakers for the Ancestors hire the characters to find out what is causing the Cyclone's approach and reverse it. It's also got a section to finish up on using the Citadel. And yeah, that is the entirety of the first chapter here. I think this is quite the promising start. I think it has a ton of flavor, especially for something that's just a hub world. They could have really done the bare minimum with this, and I feel like they've really gone above and beyond the Call of Duty with just creating the lore and intricate elements that could tie in very well to characters adventuring from place to place, and really does lend to the idea of this being a more free-flowing adventure where characters can choose which one they want to engage with as they can get the information they need from the incarnates should they want to inquire more about any adventure before doing it. Overall, I'm quite excited for Journeys to the Radiant Citadel. I can't wait for July when it comes out, and I'm sure I'm going to have more complete thoughts for you then. But yeah, thank you for watching. Until then, be sure to stay tuned, comment what you thought of this, be sure to like and subscribe as well, and I'll see you all next time. Thank you for watching.